Let's take a look at the Mantle Clamp by TriStar Design and Manufacturing and compare it to the OEM crusher nut provided through Sandvik. The Mantle Clamp will be on the left, the OEM nut is on the right. First, let's look at what it takes to remove the mantle. First step on the OEM nut is to burn out any of the welds that may have been holding the mantle to the nut. Quite often, these welds don't come out well and the nut gets stuck. I've seen people cut through the mantle just to pull the mantle off, and then they work on burning the nut, and burning the nut, and burning the nut. The problem is, once that's done, they don't come off very easy. So you loosen it with a hammer, you loosen it with a jackhammer, and you'll hammer. And you'll hammer. This is a very ineffective way to change out a mantle. When they cut the burn ring, you'll get damage to the nut and damage to the threads. You can see here a close-up of what it looks like when they have to cut through the nut just to get it off. Let's take a look at what happens to the head. There's damage to the head, you'll damage the threads, and you'll often damage the nut itself so that it can't be reused. And what about the injury potential? Repetitive motion and overhead injury from swinging sledgehammers, burn rods, and cutting torches. There are a lot of issues with the OEM nut. The steps to remove the mantle on the OEM nut is to burn the welds, hammer to loosen, burn the burn ring, unscrew the nut. You've got issues with damaging the nuts, damaging individuals, and often the nuts are not reusable. Let's compare that to the Mantle Clamp provided by TriStar Design and Manufacturing. If this is a first-time installation, you must remove the OEM inner nut and replace it with the inner nut that is designed to work with the Mantle Clamp. You would apply a thread locker to the nut before screwing the inner nut in place to prevent it from backing out. You'll notice that the inner nut does not contain any threads like the OEM does. That is because the Mantle Clamp will not be twisted on, but will be clamped in place. Once the inner nut has been installed, you will set the mantle in place. Be sure to clean the seat so that the mantle will set firmly on the head. Also make sure that all of the old backing material and dust is cleaned away from the head. This will ensure a good seal. With the inner nut in place, the next step is to lower the mantle in place. Once the mantle has been set in place, be sure to check level. You can do this by setting a straight edge along the top and taking measurements on all sides. Next, you will set the clamp plate in place and start all of the bolts. This step is important. Make sure that everything is setting evenly and the clamp plate is torqued uniformly. We recommend hand tightening all of the bolts until they are snug. Then, following the star pattern, torque all of the bolt in stages until you finally reach the torque setting. Finally, do 3 rounds at the specified torque settings. As you torque the mantle, it will continue to set on the head. This repeated torquing will ensure that nothing is loosened. Once you've reached the initial torque, you can do circles around the mantle clamp. Be sure to hit each of the nuts in a full circle 3 times until you get no movement from the bolt when applying the torque wrench. Finally, you will install the cover plate and bolt everything in place. If you wish, you can tack each of these components in place to ensure that nothing backs off, but that is not required for the mantle clamp installation. The mantle is ready to pour backing material in and be put in service. The steps to removing the mantle are pretty simple. Remove the cover plate, unscrew the clamp bolts, lift and remove the locking plate, and remove the mantle. And that's it. We minimize the risk of injury. There's no hammering or burning, and unscrewing the nut and removing the mantle is just as easy as installing the mantle. This concludes our comparison of the mantle clamp and the OEM crusher nut. Which do you prefer? TriStar Design and Manufacturing. Safer, faster, and smarter.